Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. I have to first off say thank you so much for the love and the support, the emails, the comments, the views, the subscribers that I got over the past few weeks because of my "if I can buy a house, you can too" video. Honestly didn't think that there were so many people my age who were actually interested in buying a house. So that's just made me so happy to be able to have shared a needed story to you guys, and believe me when I say that's just the beginning. This question came up multiple times from so many of you guys. What is the difference between buying a new build and an older build? Which one should I pick and why? So I am here today to share the pros and the cons of a new build house and an older build house, and that could be a house, a flat. These are general pros and cons of each. I'm not being biased. I want you guys to take this information and make your decision solely on what is good for you. Also, if you have not yet subscribed to my channel, please subscribe. It makes it easier. You don't have to go and search and write my very uncommon surname and try and remember how to spell it. My videos will just pop up and life is just easy from there. We're going to start with the great stuff, the pros of a new build and an older build. The pros of a new build then is that, of course, you will be the first person to occupy the building, the flat, the house. You'll be the first owner, you'll be the first person to live in there, so it's literally brand spanking new. Secondly, we all know new build flats and properties have a very beautiful exterior. You have the nice paneling, you have the nice brickwork and the colors and the gardens in front of you, and the bushes are all trimmed to perfection, and you have nice walkways, you have nice parking areas and parking bays. All of that is stunning. Another pro is you will have no hands-on sort of decorating or renovating, because of course before you've even moved in you would have chosen out the things that you want in the flat, down to the decor. Before you even get into the house, it's already done. So literally you can just move straight in and get on with life, and that must be a really nice feeling. And so because it's new and no one's ever lived in the property, there are no onward chains, no linking, no I have to wait for this person to sell so that I can move into there. There's no tenants that you have to wait for their notice period to end before you can get your keys. There really is no relying on someone else to move out for you to move in. Another pro obviously is that they are modern because they are just built. Everything is brand new. The style of the property will be brand new, so you may even have an open plan kitchen, ensuite bathroom some of the times, and things like that. On top of all of that, there should not be any nasty surprises. Problems with the boiler, because that should be brand new. Problems with windows installation, because that should be brand new. Problems with heaters, pipes, that should all be brand new. So you really wouldn't get any nasty surprises in terms of when you start using things. They should all work as expected. So moving on to the older build properties. Now, older build properties can range from ex-local authority properties, council flats. They could also be built by, managing companies and developers, but they're older. So they are not built this year or last year or 5 years ago. They're buildings that have lasted quite a while and are quite solid. So that's the first pro. Older properties are solid as just a rock. They've stood for so long and they will continue to stand for so long. I think that's partly because of the way things used to be built. The brickwork, the original tiles that are on the floor, the concrete. You're really getting something solid if you're buying an older build property. Another pro is that you often, if not 80-90% of the time, will have a bigger space. You will have bigger rooms and you will often have a lot more storage in an older build property. They would often build flats, for example, for bigger sized families, and they would expect that the whole family could fit into this flat. So they would make the bedrooms quite big, built-in wardrobes. You are able to personalize the property, I guess, yourself. Unlike a new build where things are done before you get there, of course you are choosing what you want. In an older build though, you're able to get into the property and really make it your own with the visualization of where things are actually going to go. So it depends on what you are looking for. If you're looking for something that you can move straight into and you don't really want to, you know, get creative yourself, you just want to choose things and have people do them, then a newer build may be for you. But you can also still do that with an older build. You can employ somebody to get into your older build property and do things for you and not have you get so hands-on. So if you're not a hands-on person, you don't have to go down the hands-on route with an older build. I've enjoyed doing. It is also a known fact that with older build properties you can get a lot of character and charm, not necessarily in flats, although in my flat I do, quite uncommon, but with actual houses like Victorian houses you can get beams, you can get, you know, amazing like features on the ceiling, fireplaces, original panels on the walls, really nice staircases and so on, and the sun is just beaming. The new build property, they're very minimalist sort of thing, and every building in that flat or in that, you know, area is going to look exactly the same unless it's a different model. A majority of the time with older build properties, the council will be the managing company as well, so they are the people that you would pay your service charge to, and in my situation that is the case. They are known to be very good managing people, I guess, because they have a vested interest in terms of how your building is run and taken care of, because of course they are your council. With new build properties that is not usually the case. You would have a separate managing company. Your service charge in a new build property would be a lot more expensive because first of all they're employing a third party to do certain things such as clean and upkeep and all those things, so your service charge and ground rent could be almost double if not more than an equivalent of an older build property. Okay, so let's move on to the cons of a new build property and an old build property. Believe it or not, there are some cons of a new build property, and I've seen it. There are quite a few cons that a lot of people are not aware of. They just see a new building and of course it must be amazing, must be brand new, there are no problems with it. Well, I'm sure a lot of you know that new build properties are built extremely quickly. I've seen it myself, driving past a development and it's just completely empty and it's boarded up and you can see pictures of brand new spanking houses on the borders. Well, drive past it in a month or two and you will see the building literally just completely up. How do they do it and why are they done so quickly? Of course, the UK has a housing shortage, so things are done very quickly. But with things being done so quickly, the quality may not be there. And that's not all the time, guys. I'm not saying that's always the case, but just bear that in mind. Oftentimes, it's not built as stable and as solid as an older build property. But I am speaking from experience when I say that sometimes there may be some surprises when you do move into the property. For example, I lived in a new build 3-bedroom house. It was beautiful, beautifully built, beautifully made and decorated and designed. And in my second year of uni, we lived in there. We were the first people to live in the house. So the house would have been built, I think it was about 2 or 3 months before we moved in. As soon as we moved in, we noticed there were cracks everywhere. There were cracks along the edge of the staircase, there were cracks along the corners of the walls and the ceilings. The walls would easily be dented and cracked into. You have to be very delicate, to be honest, with a new build property. With an old build property, you don't really need to be delicate. Let's talk about price. A new build property can be charged up to 20-25% more than an equivalent older build property. That means that should you ever decide to resell the property, you may be in negative equity and you may not get the price that you paid for it. And remember, once that flat has been occupied, it's no longer a new build. So with that being said then, it's all about what you prioritize and what you think is important for you. So if having a brand new flat and being the only person that's ever lived in it is key and quintessential to you, go straight ahead into the new build direction. The reason these management companies and developers are able to price the properties up to 25% higher than I guess they are actually worth is because they want to make the most out of their investment. I'll give you an example. The property I mentioned in my last video that I was not able to buy because it was valued 20,000 less than we agreed to pay. That was a new build, but it wasn't new when it was time for me to buy it. So the banks were not going to allow me to spend 20,000 more than it was actually worth. Do you see where I'm going? It wasn't worth that. And so you, as the seller now of this new build, will not be able to get the price that you really want, or even to match what you've bought it for. You are almost certainly going to pay through the roof for your service charge and ground rent. Sometimes almost double, if not more than you would for an older build that is equivalent, you know, same amount of bedrooms and so on. This is because you will often be paying for the upkeep of the glamorous, beautifully, you know, designed building, and that could be the bushes outside, the, you know, the cutting of the grass, keeping everything clean and tidy and watered, painting and carpet in the communal areas like the hallways, the lighting, things like that, which are really new and nice. You will be paying to upkeep that, so it will be a lot more than it would for an older build. Another con of buying a new build then is also the fact that you are buying it off plan. This is not all the time. Sometimes the new build is new and you're able to buy it with it already being built, but off plan meaning that it's not built yet and you've probably seen a showroom or you've seen diagrams and pictures. When you are looking at showrooms provided by the management companies or the developers who are building the developments, you need to just be aware that in some situations they may give the illusion of a bit more space in the room when it's not actually as big as it may seem. For example, I read an article recently that was saying one of the tricks that they do is that they will place smaller sized furniture in rooms. For example, a smaller bed that looks like it's a full-size double bed, like this is a 4x6, that's the standard double bed in the UK. They may do a smaller size, like a smaller double, you know, those smaller doubles that you can see, and different things like that they may do, which will create the fact that there may be more walking space in a room, when in fact when you put a standard size bed in there, there's less. So just be aware of that. When you buy things off plan, you can't walk in there and view the actual house that you are buying and think of where you put furniture. So that's one, I guess that's something you lose in terms of when you buy a new build, is that you can't go in there and visualize and really see and get a feel of what the building is. Oftentimes once the carcass is actually up and you've just got the walls around you, that's when you're able to actually see your home. And sometimes you may be surprised at the sizes, and then you've got to kind of rethink of where and how you will decorate. Be clued up when you do see these showrooms. Another thing to consider when buying a new build property is specifically flats. I think with some new build houses you can get a bit more room. With a flat in particular, you will get smaller sized rooms. It is almost a fact. In most developments that's the case, because you are not the only house they're building or the only flat they're building. They want to do this for investment purposes, so they're going to make sure they use every single speck of space. They're going to cram as many houses and homes in one particular development so they can get more out of it, right? So there won't be a lot of storage space. You may have one storage cupboard in the whole house. Your second room, for example, may be a box room. So these are things to remember, okay? Just remember it. With older build properties, they are known to give you a bit more space for your pound. I'm not talking about penthouses that may have vast sizes. I'm talking about new build developments targeted at first-time buyers and so on. So another thing to consider is that your development may be built in the middle of nowhere. Often because developers will find plots of land and they will just shoot up the houses, so you may not have a close transport link to you. You may be on a main road. I remember when I was viewing houses and I would drive past places in Essex, for example, and see these beautifully designed flats and houses, just amazing. But when I looked on Google Maps to see where I was, one, I didn't know what area I was in. I was kind of just in the middle of nowhere. And two, I couldn't find a close station nearby. Some other developments are great for transport links, like right near stations. You can also pay over the odds for the appliances that they may put in the property for you and the labour. So it may be a good thing to kind of outsource and look somewhere else for your appliances and do that on your own, because you will, you know, spend a lot less. Some old houses that I myself have come across have been despicable. Like, how is that allowed to be sold? I don't understand. One property I went and visited, it was damp, it was dark, it was dreary, it was just dingy, right? It was a 1-bedroom house, so it had a 1-bedroom upstairs, but it was up and down, okay? The living room was tiny, okay? It was just cramped. The thing that got me was that there were no heaters. There was no heating. You had to plug in an electric heater. I think your hot water was on some random electrical meter thing. Yeah, there was just electricity in the house. There wasn't electric heaters built and stuck on the wall. You had to plug them in, okay? So old houses can also be crazy. Let's say you have an older build property that's ex-local authority, you know, as in the council used to own it and people have bought it off the council. You need to just be careful in terms of the areas that you're choosing. In London and around London, and I guess in the UK in general, there are often a lot of developments or estates or areas, for example, that used to have maybe a bad rep that have now completely transformed. And if that's the sort of area that you're looking in, that's amazing, because chances are you've got an influx of new buyers who maybe work and, you know, they are looking for that sort of area, a nice, comfortable community that is safe, etc. But there are still some areas that have been left behind, and some of the buildings that you may be looking at, you may be the only homeowner in the whole building. So things like signs around the area and things that you may see when you do visit, just keep a look out for things, seriously, because you will not know really until you actually move in and meet your neighbours and meet the people and walk around the area. Other nasty surprises could be internal, so you could have dents and holes in the walls that need filling. I remember going around my walls and just filling in, but of course a new build property won't have any little holes, no matter how small they are, because they're completely new and no one's actually lived in there. But with a property that has been used before, you will have to fill those little things in. You may just want to get new skirting boards, which is the border along the floor, which I'm going to do once all my flooring is down. It just gives that new feel to the property. And with old can also come layers and layers and layers of wallpaper. I remember in my home that my mum recently sold, that I lived in forever, once we were decorating her room, and I remember we were peeling off her wallpaper at the time, and there was a big Mickey Mouse wallpaper. Amazing, the best thing I've ever seen. And so yeah, to give you an example, there could be various layers. Luckily this is just the wall, because I peeled off the last wallpaper, which you would have seen if you watched my first JV home episode. Go and watch if you haven't. I mean, obviously the last thing I have to mention, if I must, is that you're not the first occupant of the house. No, you're not. But it's not always bad, but you're not. I mean, for various people that is important, and of course if it is, I will stress, go and buy a new build where you are the first person. But if it's not, then just make it new like I have. You know, no one's touched my walls, my bed, my curtains, the flooring. It's all new. Just think about what is really important to you and what you will be paying for depending on what way you go. Because you do have the cost of, you know, paying more for the property of a new build. And then of course the cost for an older build is updating it. Depending on how you want to spend your money and how much, there are different reasons for each. And I guess those are the pros and cons, guys, for a new build and an old build property. I've been doing this the whole video, haven't I? So just think about it wisely before you do make the choice of where you're putting your money, because of course it's a huge investment. Then I want to thank you guys for watching my JV home episode, and if you're a new subscriber and you've been like going back and fishing through my old ones, I really appreciate the love and support from all of you guys. Those of you who have seen me for the whole year that I've been doing this, and for those of you guys that have just come on board since the great topic of house has been my thing. I can't give you guys a house tour yet as well, because the house is not done, okay? I am not in a new build, so it's not done. I am doing it as I go along. But I will do vlogs potentially if there are any new and exciting things. So thank you for watching, and keep watching. Like, comment, subscribe, share, comment below. Email me, ask me your questions, anything that you want to see me talk about, I will talk about it. Bye. I'm a call your roommate on the phone and tell her that you ain't coming home. I wanna pick you up and